someone reviewing an application, the best way to get them to be your advocate is for them to like you. Application Renovation Season 5 underway. How you doing, my friend?
Doing awesome. How are you, Dr. Gray?
I am excellent. I'm disappointed that I'm talking to you right now. I'm excited that I'm talking to you so we can all learn and grow and sing Kumbaya together. But you didn't get into med school.
That is correct. And I also have the same feelings you have.
What happened?
Applied to 24 schools. I'm a California resident. I expected to get some love from the California schools, and I didn't. I got one interview and just recently got the news that I got rejected. So that was tough to hear, but that's how my cycle went.
Okay. Stats are not an issue for you, as we'll see here in a minute. If you could channel your inner Dr. Gray and go, here's what's wrong with my application. Is there one thing, or are you not sure what's going on?
I've thought about this for a lot. I've been, thinking it over for a while. I think I have three potential reasons. Number one is I don't think my narrative was convincing enough, potentially. Number two, my school list may have just been too selective and so competitive that even as a competitive applicant, potentially, it's difficult to get in. And then Third, I applied June 19th, and I watch your podcast enough to know that it's maybe not the biggest deal, but it still hurts.
Well, let's go lay some eyes on the application and see where maybe we can make some improvements moving forward. Knowing at this point, as we're recording this, basically mid-March, one interview and have a post-interview rejection from that one school. And so probably no other traction this cycle. So we'll hopefully improve and apply again. And you'll send me an email next year going, I did it. Changed it all around.
That's right.
So let's go ahead and take a look at your application here. You mentioned June 19th, definitely not an issue in terms of application timing. What about your secondaries? How was that turnaround time?
Because June 19th bugged me so much, I tried to be really good. And so I don't think I submitted a single secondary that took me more than a week or two at most.
Okay.
So I was pretty quick on them, I think.
Okay. Very cool. And a very common thing that comes up, and I'll just mention this now. So you submitted June 19th. You were verified. I'm assuming that's your verification date is July 22nd. I'm assuming that you got a few secondaries before this date. Or were they all post-verification?
I believe they were all post.
Okay.
Yeah.
So point of clarification that I made a comment on someone's TikTok video recently. Schools can, at least according to AMCAS, and I'm friends with the AMCAS people, and so I emailed. I'm like, hey, can you just verify this for me? Technically, schools can check a box that says we want to be able to see who is applying to our school even before their applications are verified. So they're not pulling down your application information, but they can see contact information. And so schools can send you secondaries even before your applications are verified. So just I don't know what I would call that. Just a technicality that I want to make sure people understand, so you're not caught off guard going, hey, why am I getting a secondary right now? All right, so just some general demographic information all blocked out. Disadvantage, not marked. You weren't calculated to have a SES disadvantage based on parent, education, or income, and no red flags, which is awesome. All right, so there's the other red flag. We get to grades, and we can see a couple AP classes. And we see lots of A's, some A minuses, a single B plus. What happened there?
COVID advanced physiology. I was just trying to juggle too many things, I think.
Not a problem. And how did you finish out your year? Because you were applying with classes still.
Yeah, all A's. And I'm not sure if you saw the W.
I did. I
It's
ignored it.
also something that scares me, but it was
I ignored it.
COVID and it just, yeah,
Yeah,
just happened.
not a problem. Single data points like this are not a concern. It's where there's a W here and a W here and a W there, and there's a pattern of you evading hard classes potentially. But
Sure.
sociology, not a problem. All
Okay.
right. So your grades obviously 3.9-ish. Yeah, 3.94, 3.97, 3.98 all other. So GPA fantastic, and you crushed your MCAT. So your stats did not close any doors for you.
Thank you. And I have a question on that, if I can.
Yeah.
So the additional 2022 MCAT intent date, my initial application, it said that I was taking an extra MCAT until I was scrolling through and I saw that it said that I was waiting to take an MCAT. So I don't know if that played into my cycle at all. I caught it maybe 3 months after I had applied. So
Interesting.
and it was the same date that I took the MCAT. So I took the MCAT May 19th, and it said that I was waiting for another MCAT on May 19th. So potentially.
So you took your MCAT May 19th. You applied June 19th. So you had your score already.
I don't think I had gotten it actually. I think I got it on like the 27th or something like that.
Okay. So that's what that is then.
Okay.
That's what that additional MCAT test day is when you submitted your application, your score was still pending.
Okay.
I'm assuming that's what that is. And the only reason I assume that's what it is because you said it's the same date that you took your MCAT.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably didn't play into any nefarious, like, there was a bug in the system, right?
Right.
Probably
Right.
not.
Okay, that's good news.
A little bit of a lower score with preview. We don't know how that is taken into account. There was probably only one or two schools that required it for you. Is that about right?
Yeah, only a handful.
Yeah. Did you take Casper as well?
I did take Casper as well. I did way better on Casper.
Yeah. So, and that's generally what I see. People do better on Casper because you have a chance to explain yourself versus preview, you don't. So,
Right.
all right. Let's look at experiences. Do you feel like you're lacking in any experiences?
The I've been thumbing this over as well. The one thing that I think potentially is community service to underserved populations around me. That may be the one.
So one of those non-clinical volunteering.
Right.
Okay. It's always a concern. It's one of those that I don't think is a huge concern, but potentially for some schools, maybe.
Okay.
All right. So we start off here, medical clinical, a medical trip to Mali. And obviously one trip here in October and then another trip then the following year anticipated. Did you end up going on that second one or no?
No, wife had a baby and just didn't make it out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So third world hospital, as the sun was setting, people already lined the streets waiting for the clinic to open the following day. A team of ophthalmologists, nurses, technicians working together to make a difference to those in need. So you cleaned surgical instruments, so I wouldn't have focused on that. Non-clinical stuff, right? Screened and helped patients into the operating room. Great. Witnessed dozens of people regain their sight. Okay. Communicate through smiles and body gestures. Stayed in contact with a new friend there. We plan to reunite. Awesome. Okay. So you have this experience of medical clinical, but I don't really see who you are as a medical clinical person here, other than you cleaned some instruments and you screened and helped patients. So potentially shifting that focus a little bit more on you in a clinical environment, maybe potentially telling the story of one of those patient interactions to really help me see who you are, right? For people who have watched this show plenty of times, that's just my general go-to, right? Tell me a story of that interaction. Don't just tell me what you did. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
And then a reflection for this one before we move on. A reflection. What did this mean to you? You don't really have a reflection. You just said, hey, I've stayed in touch with a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And are you asking me, or are you saying when I go to rewrite it?
Yeah, when you go to rewrite it.
Yeah. Okay.
Think about that. We have a conference. There is a conference experience category. Why not label that as conference?
Because I wasn't presenting. I was really a facilitator.
Yeah. But there is a conferences attended category.
Okay. So yeah, so potentially, I just didn't know, I guess, the best way to put it.
Okay. I was just running a microphone from person to person or working a projector. Okay. So you weren't really attending the conference. You were there working at the conference.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So to me, this one, probably fluff. I would read that going, it's fluff. There's really not much there. All right. And then we get to some good meaty one, right? Some big medical, clinical, ophthalmic tech. 521 to 622, and then 722 to 1222. Why only 1222?
I graduated from BYU and moved. So
okay. All right. That will make sense. Okay. So good chunk of hours. And then when we look at the description here, you're learning a new language, the language of ophthalmology. Spelling ophthalmology is the hardest part. So you're running scans and tests on patients in order to prepare them to see the doctor. You walk them through the process, ensure their comfort. Many Google searches. All right. So I do not just want to escort the patient through the clinic. I strive to enhance his or her level of care. The only way to accomplish this is through knowledge of clinic operations. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I guess what it meant to me was I didn't want to just have it be a job that anybody can do, right? Learn how to run the machines and things like that. I really wanted to make a connection with the patient. I didn't want to just be escorting them. I wanted to be able to make a connection with them and have their experience be enjoyable there.
It almost, the way that it's written, it's almost like, hey, I want to be like the office manager, not the clinician. Okay, so be careful with that. Style thing that definitely isn't required, but just in our general language these days, instead of his or her, put there, just to be as inclusive as possible. Obviously, not everyone agrees with that, but just my general take. All right, so patients suffering from glaucoma, incurable disease that frustrates patients. Well, it's funny. It is curable. You just put a new lens in, don't you?
It's cataract. Glaucoma.
Oh, cataract. Yeah. Glaucoma. Definitely not the same thing. I don't know why I thought that. Anyway, shame on me. I'm a doctor, but I'm a podcaster now. So anyway, glaucoma. Yes. Okay. The Humphrey Visual Field Test, notoriously bothersome for the patient. This yearly exam requires at least 15 concentrated minutes for Jared. Why are we getting so nitty gritty here with the details?
So I wanted to really lay it out for the reader to recognize that, okay, like I'm going to be taking this patient that is older, has a difficult time maybe doing some of these tasks, and they're going to have to be focused for 15 minutes. And so it's essential for me to be there for them, walk them through it, make sure that they're comfortable during the entire thing. So I was trying to really paint the picture before kind of saying what I was going to do.
Yeah. Okay. So probably a little too much, I would say, a little too technical, not really needed. Again, the goal is for me to understand who you are as much as possible. That's just my style. That's my recommendation, because I think the best way to communicate with someone reviewing an application, the best way to get them to be your advocate is for them to like you, right? And the only way for them to like you is to be able to connect with them through your writing. It's the only piece of context that they have. And so when I read this, I'm like, oh, this is so super technical. And my assumption is that you're going to set me up for, look at how technically advanced I am. Look at how I basically know how to run the machines. You don't even need to teach me in medical school. Just give me a diploma. I'm ready to go. And so I keep reading. You have one particularly old patient. I don't know if I'd call a patient old. After a few minutes of rest, he was able to proceed. And then here's where I get to the sales pitch that you were setting me up for, is how to be sensitive to the needs of the patient and work with the physician to ensure safety and efficiency, even with simple procedures. The angle that you're coming at it is from a skills and technical standpoint. I have these skills that are going to be useful in medical school, going to be useful as a physician, versus I'm going to show you how I am a compassionate person, how I connect with my patients without telling you that I'm a compassionate person. I can see you in that interaction is ideally where we go, especially with patient interaction activities. You're not going to be able to tell a story for everyone. You're not going to, for every activity. But for ones where you are literally interacting with the patients, there's probably a really good way for you to show me that interaction to help me understand who you are, especially with this interaction with a patient. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. So being an ophthalmic technician has been more than a job. Okay. From glaucoma, not cataract. You know what I was thinking cataract was silly Mr. Beast. I don't know if you saw his video recently where he cured like 1,000 people of cataract, having cataracts. Anyway, so that's my excuse, people. Don't roast me.
It's a good one.
From glaucoma evaluations to prescription checks, the entire experience has become a primary motivator of my goal to be a physician. Again, this is another style thing. I don't recommend the activity section be why medicine. The activity section to me is, how was this experience impactful for me just as a person? Yes, obviously you want to be a future physician. You're applying to medical school. Your personal statement, why medicine, activities, impact about this specific activity. And all right. And then again, takeaway here, being directly involved in patient care, learning clinical operations have proven to be invaluable to me. Why? What's so impactful there, right? So just having that, just a little bit of a deeper takeaway.
Okay.
Chemistry teaching assistant. And then hold on one second. Yeah, so we talked about the time span here. Obviously, lots of hours, ending 12/22. If we look at, I'm just going to scroll through real quick. Physician shadowing, biochemistry research, pickleball, hospital volunteer, leadership, baseball manager, resident assistant, wrestling, your mission, no other clinical experience. So as I'm reading this, I go, you stopped your clinical experience, you stopped your research there, 12/22, and I don't see anything else in terms of experiences. Did you talk about future activities on your secondaries? At least the ones that asked about it?
I can't remember exactly, but essentially I graduated, 3 months ago, and the idea was to move home and work, save money, and then hopefully start med school in the fall.
Yeah.
So
work doing what?
So I essentially travel to college campuses and I educate students and help them secure food stamps.
Interesting. So not clinical experience.
Right.
Why not? It doesn't
to be
pay
honest,
as well.
Well, what was that?
It doesn't pay as well.
Potentially. I think I really was just expecting to get into medical school, and this, I was wanting to make as much money as I could in as short as period as possible. So
okay, yeah, and it's one of those things where I don't know if I over stress this, and it's really not that big of a deal, but I think it is. if you're saying, hey, I want to be a doctor, and you're like, okay, I applied to med school, I'm done, what message is that sending to the school? Am I completely overstating it and just picking it apart because it's an easy thing to pick at? Maybe. But I think I always go back to the super common saying, right? Actions speak louder than words. Your words are saying, hey, I want to apply to med school, I want to be a doctor. Your actions are saying, okay, I'm done. What's next? All right, so potential concern there. Chemistry teaching assistant, instructed in-person chemistry lab of 20 students. Looking back on my own experience in chemistry class, I remember wanting to feel connected to my TA. So you create this bond, you arrive early to class, stayed late for those students. So just kind of selling this try hard, really caring person. After instructing my students to email me with specific questions, formulated each of my lesson plans to fit their needs. Very common way to say what all teachers do, right? Adjusting their plans to each of the students. So just a very basic description there. Here you use the conferences attended one. So you knew it was a category, but we figured out why you didn't use it on the last one. So going to conferences is typically not that impactful of a activity, but it's on there. Good. Shadowing you have. So you started in 2020. You went for a while. You got a little bit more in 2021 in March and April, and then some more going through that period of time. And then again, stopping all activities here in December 2022. So again, I'll say it, whether or not it's a potential reason why med schools are like, he doesn't really care, he's just checking boxes. I don't know, right? And I think with the ability now, and I'll zoom in here, right? This anticipated, although that's weird how it printed out, kind of looks like it's a typo there. It should be,
the L's are I's.
Yeah, the anticipated date here, I think, gives the ability to show what you're planning on doing. A potential missed opportunity to show them that you're staying involved in doing things. But your plan wasn't to do that. So, and it's interesting, right? The way that you stated it, it's like, hey, I was planning on getting into med school. So I figured I had done enough and I put it in my application and I was going to get in because, hey, I have a 394 and a 516. I don't know. It's hard. All right, let's keep going. So you have research. Awesome. Lots of research. So you're improve the efficacy of factor V Leiden mutation diagnoses. All right. Cost-effective testing. See regular old Theranos there. Quant Studio, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Optimal outcomes include cost-effective testing, smaller required sample sizes, regular Theranos, like I said, and more accurate results. Presented research at 3 conferences. Great. Including a presentation on the positive influence of the device on biothermal research. Cool. I always find it interesting when students tie, again, just a general thing, right? Don't use activities to push why medicine. The exposure to research fueled your desire to become a physician. I just don't think that's a connection, right? Research is research. Medicine is medicine. Sure, physicians do research. So it's just not a standard connection for me. I would love to see, like, what is the impact of this? How are patients going to be impacted by this? What does this mean for them? Help me understand the downstream effects of what you're trying to work on. But overall, it's okay. This is probably most likely the reason you weren't accepted. You're a pickleballer. Just like, you're one of those people. I'm just kidding. So pickleball, you're playing, and so it's interesting, right? That's the one thing it looks like that you projected out until the start of med school. So it's like you're quitting everything December 2022, and you're going to be a pickleballer for the rest of your career until you start medical school. So it's fine. Obviously, I love having hobbies on an application. I think it's great. Let's look at how you wrote the activity here. So getting together and exercising allows me, my friends, family to stay active both physically and in each other's life. Friendly competition. Practice. Teammate and I thought we were getting pretty skilled, so we signed up to compete in a large tournament. We took second place. Awesome. Okay, you didn't try to sell anything. You didn't talk about teamwork or any of that stuff. It's a fun little story, so good job. All right, community service, not medical clinical. So helping out at the help desk in the emergency department. Lots of hours, not medical clinical, so not helping you from a clinical standpoint, but good to have on there. Again, description-wise, just friendliness can lighten the burdens of those around you. Sure, I guess. All right. Cub Scout Master 2019. So leading a scout troop. The irreplaceable impact it had on me motivated me to give back to the younger generations because you were a scout as a child. All right. Importance of physical well-being, fitness challenge, all that fun stuff. So this lesson helped propel me to excellence in higher education. How?
So I believe it was just watching these young kids have to do something that was hard for them and try to be excellent in that thing,
Okay.
And like I said, the importance was doing their best. And
Yeah.
so in higher education for me was trying to do my best.
Just trying to do your best. Okay. Again, very early on. This is earlier in your college career. Fundamentals. So you're telling a story of one player here, which is great. I always love to see this just one person, one story just drives home that impact a little bit more. Some people need extra support to succeed, right? Super general statement that, yes, of course, there are always going to be people who need a little bit extra. Help the whole team feel camaraderie, unity, preparedness. All right. A whole can be greater than the sum of its parts. All right. So a little cliche-ish. You were an RA. Okay. Again, stopping then. Become RAs to make ends meet. We have supervised over 600 tenants, kept the complex safe. Awesome. Okay. Eviction notices. That's fun.
Yeah.
All of the electric door locks cease to function. Awesome. Okay. So again, the sales pitch here, opportunities like this have helped me attain new level of adaptability. Just focused on those skills there. Wrestling. Okay. You only did it for a year?
Yeah, unfortunately the college terminated the program, so only had that opportunity.
Interesting. All right. Mentor, so teammate, now a doctor, med student. Selling that skill again. Hey, I have discipline. It's very common for athletes to use that as a launching point to talk about discipline. Because you're trying to show, hey, I'm going to be disciplined as a student in med school. I know that's what it's going to take. All right. Passion for excellence. Again, just in my mind, overdoing a little bit on those things there.
Okay.
All right. Fine line. Cutting weight to their advantage. Wearing plastic bags to sweat it all out. All that fun stuff. I wrestled for 1 year in high school. I hated it.
Yeah, it's rough.
There's hunger, mood swings. Yes, definitely. So it's funny. You have this talking about cutting weight, and you said pound after pound I shed the weight and was able to represent, but you don't say how much weight you had to shed. Like, was it a pound or was it 20 pounds? That's a very different thing.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Is that something I should highlight?
I don't know. I haven't finished reading the whole thing to understand what it is that you're talking about, other than potentially just that. To me, if I were to guess, just reading this part of it so far is, hey, you're talking about a team depending on wrestlers, and ooh, I'm a dependable teammate because I'm going to be here and shed the weight, right? Again, from a sales aspect, that's what I read into this. And again, I fully recognize that I'm very biased and very jaded when I read these, and so I'm looking for the worst out of it. But then I'll say that, and students are like, yeah, that's what I was going for. I don't know if that's what you were going for or not. So it really depends on what the goal was. Does it really matter if you mention how much weight you had to shed? Again, I think it depends on what the whole point of mentioning trying to make weight is about. Unity brought about by hundreds of hours spent as a team. So yeah, so you're focused on the team aspect, the teamwork aspect. To it. You took a hard loss, battling back, finished in the top 12, and a 4th in the nation. Awesome. I gained friends, experiences, and a lifelong mentor. At season end, you were asked to be captain, and BYU dropped the program. Thanks, people. Awesome. Okay. So not bad. Again, I think there's just an over focus on a skill or asset that you have versus just the joy that you took away from it. And then we have a missionary service. I'm surprised with the hours that you put on there.
Yeah, so we're always at BYU, our advisors are pretty particular about us not overestimating because it's probably a lot higher than 110.
Yeah.
But they don't want us to, I don't know the best way to put it, but overemphasize this and it look inflated, I guess.
Yeah, so to me, it's interesting. To me, it's almost like they want you to lie about your hours, so it doesn't look like it takes up a chunk of your time, so that your clinical hours are more prominent.
What we're doing while we're there is we kind of have 2 hours a week ish, or sorry, an hour a week of service, and that's what it ends up being.
So 52 times 2, roughly, right, is where you got your 110.
Right. And I don't know the best way to do it because most of the time we're proselyting. Yeah. Right. So what would you advise?
I would probably do 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2 years.
That is okay. That's awesome because that's okay.
Yeah, and it's not to go, oh, your application will be better if you have 4,000 hours of community service.
Sure.
Your application will be better because it's the truth.
Right.
Right. Someone looking at this who knows anything about missions will go, what do you mean 110 hours? you guys are going all day long every day for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? So it just doesn't make sense.
No, I see it now, and I'm definitely going to use that as take a different aspect or a different turn on it.
All right. So when we look at it, right, missionary service, again, anyone who knows anything about Mormons and LDS knows that, hey, you guys go on missions, and so the hours just don't make sense. And so I would look at, when I see stuff like that, I wonder how much other manipulating of hours are going on. Like, what else are you not being completely honest with? And again, I think what I think your advisors are doing, without knowing who they are and without wanting to speak bad about them, is they're trying to minimize your community service so that your clinical experience gets highlighted more. And it's just not a game that you have to play. So as home, all I knew was home, and embarked on a 2-year mission in Colombia, away from everyone, permitted weekly communication with friends and family through email. So you're hanging out, spent teaching English classes to the community. Is that the hour a week that you were doing the service?
That's part of it, yeah.
Okay. performing physical, emotional acts of service, leading groups of 20 missionaries. Awesome. My leadership role included helping them understand how they could help the communities in which they served. Okay, cool. It looks a little bit light. If I were to say, like, try to guess how many characters that is, it probably looks closer to 500. So I'm just wondering, again, from a reflection standpoint, that's probably the biggest thing that's missing from all of your activities or most of your activities is reflecting in that description area. What did this mean to you? Again, not in terms of strengthening your desire to be a physician, but just in terms of that specific activity and what it meant to you. All right, custom agents who is speaking to you in Spanish, 3 semesters studying Spanish, gonna understand her. All right, so you are a young adult coming to a realization that either had to adapt or give up. All right, right off the bat, right? More skill selling, okay? All day, every day, Spanish was the only language I spoke, wrote, and heard. How's your Spanish to this day?
Muy bueno.
Muy bueno. All right. Good. Lived in 6 different cities throughout Colombia, completely immersed. Awesome. Okay. So you are leading English classes, which you've already mentioned above. So I don't know if we need to mention it again down here. The most meaningful for me, when you mark something as most meaningful, that most meaningful essay really is, why was this experience most meaningful to you? Versus a continuation of the description or a resume or CV of your time there.
Okay.
All right. Building, painting houses, using a machete. That's fun. To clear brush in the Amazon. Helping families with this everyday trials. All right. I love the country and its people. Many Colombians have become my lifelong friends, many of whom I still communicate with regularly. So that's the same takeaway you had earlier with your Mali trip, right?
Yeah.
Where'd it go? Right there. Oh, nope. Ooh, one more. That one. All right. So same takeaway, less about you and more just a general statement. Okay. So looking at your activities, big question mark is everything stops except pickleball on December 2022. What are you doing with your time? That's a potential question mark that schools are asking. Some schools will ask in secondaries what your plans are. So for those schools, that potentially is avoided. The questions are avoided because they ask in the secondaries. Other schools may go, this student just check the boxes and stop doing things, and we don't want a student like that. So that's a potential. And then reflections, just being able to reflect on things in a stronger way so I can see you a little bit more and understand you a little bit more. All right, let's look at your personal statement. Outside of the wrestling arena, I waited eagerly for my match. Headgear on, blah, blah, blah. All right. Made it to the National Collegiate Wrestling Association National Championships. That's fun. Where were they held?
Texas.
Nice. Texas is not what I would consider a big wrestling state. I was thinking like Wisconsin.
Yeah, Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa, definitely. All right. So my wrestling career parallels my decision and efforts to become a medical doctor. Right off the bat, I'm like, uh-oh, where are we going with this? Again, I'm very biased. I have a very particular way of what I think the personal statement should be. And anything that veers off of that, I obviously don't like, but let's keep reading. So, years of desire, thousands of hours of training, hundreds of affirmational encounters and positive personal experiences confirm medicine is where my passion lies. So it's interesting. I started reading this going, years of desire, thousands of hours of training, hundreds of affirmational encounters. I was thinking you were talking about wrestling here. Were you?
Just everything that culminated. So wrestling specifically, yeah.
If this is wrestling specifically, then how do we have confirmed
actually,
medicine is where
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was wrestling and all of the other affirmational encounters like Molly or being in the clinic or being in Colombia, things like that. All of those things played into helping confirm that desire.
Okay.
So maybe it just wasn't worded
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah. All right. So you're saying right off the bat, confirmed medicine is where my passion lies. And my statement to that is the personal statement is supposed to show me that. You saying in one sentence, oh, my passion lies in medicine. I'm like, uh-oh, that probably means the rest of the essay isn't focused on what I think it should be focused on. But let's keep reading. All right. So I have come to this self-knowledge after having attempted many hard things. Okay, again, just kind of a humble brag, right? A little bit of a humble brag there. I've attempted many hard things, learning about myself with each experience in medicine. Why? Again, the sentence starts off going in a direction, and then it seems like it completely veers off to refocus on medicine.
Yeah, I guess all of my experiences, I guess, wrestling, going to Molly, being just all of my experiences, I guess. I'm trying to read it because I see what you're saying where it's going off one way and then I'm trying to bring it back, and I'm going off, I'm trying to bring it back.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep reading. Wrestling mano a mano was lonely. What does that mean? Like when you're wrestling with someone else. How is that lonely?
Yeah, you have no support.
But
you're the only one.
It's a wrestling team. What do you mean you have no support?
Yeah, you can't tap your partner.
That's only WWE.
Exactly.
Okay. So maybe not the right word, because lonely, I mean, you're completely ignoring the rest of your team. And for me, usually cause a flood of emotions and questions. I wonder if I had prepared enough, questioned whether I was good enough, and pondered whether I might regret opportunities lost. What are we talking about?
All right. Anything else I could have done with those 600 hours?
Okay. I have similar feelings applying to medical school. So you basically told the admissions committee, the reviewer right now, that you have doubts about applying to med school.
Yeah, I think I was setting it up because in the next sentence is where I say, like in wrestling at the national championships, like I wondered if I had, prepared enough. Did I do enough push-ups? Did I go to, did I stay long enough after practice? Things like that. I questioned, if I was good enough, and pondered if I was going to, regret anything, not being the champion or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then I have similar feelings, except I know that I have prepared enough, I am good enough, and regardless of outcome, I won't regret the efforts. So I was maybe just trying, maybe just to be too poetic about it. I don't know.
I read this, I would have stopped right there and said, next, move on. All right, I read this, and I first of all, there's lots of sentences I have no idea what you're saying. And then I get pondered whether I might regret opportunities lost, and I have similar feelings about applying to medical school. I'm done looking at your application. Go figure yourself out and apply when you actually are sure this is what you want. Let's keep going. I've prepared. I'm good enough. Regardless of outcome, I won't regret the efforts. $1 short, day late and $1 short for that statement. Right. So again, I think you were trying to be super, again, kind of wax poetic, as to use your words, trying to be too creative here, when ultimately, and also what you're trying to do is go, hey, I'm ready to apply to medical school. I know this is what I want to do, which is a very common tactic that students take that I think is a waste of time. You're applying to medical school. You took the MCAT. You took all of your prereqs. You've been getting clinical experience. You've been getting shadowing. You've been doing all of these things. I know you want to apply to medical school. You don't need to take a paragraph in your personal statement to tell me that you really, really, really are sure that you want to apply to medical school, right? Outside of the experience itself of confirming that this is what you want, this statement is basically, I'm sure that I want to spend the time and effort to become a physician.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're comparing it to wrestling because of the hard work and dedication needed to be a wrestler. You're also saying, hey, that's also kind of like med school. I enjoy working closely with people. Great. That has nothing to do with medicine. Again, a very common tactic that students take is trying to draw conclusions from non-clinical things to go, hey, being a doctor is working with people. So I'm going to tell you that I enjoy working with people. A baseball coach saw youth struggle with confidence. You have this pitcher come in. Hey, we need more pitchers. And so this experience here is basically saying, hey, I'm going to be a good physician because of my experience as a coach. I'm going to be a good physician because I help people find success through confidence and through leadership and teamwork. I want to know, why do you want to be a doctor? Not that you think you have the skills to be a good physician. Okay. Again, It's a style thing that I prefer. It's not right. It's not wrong. I just don't think you telling me about being a baseball coach helps me understand who you are in terms of wanting to be a physician, which I think is the ultimate goal of what the personal statement is. I have friends who are advisors who think this is probably the perfect paragraph. And I disagree with it. Ophthalmology technician, focusing on geriatric patients. Standard medical procedures can be miracles to those suffering from loss of sight. You get to ensure patient comfort in the clinic, perform scans. So this is basically repeating what you've already told me in your activity description. So we don't need any of this stuff here.
Okay.
So your patients are only speaking Spanish, and obviously you are fluent in Spanish because it's muy bueno. And the gratitude that patients show when they are able to converse in their native language brings you much satisfaction. Again, it's just a general style thing for me is I try to have students stay away from things like being thanked and gratitude in their personal statement, because it potentially makes it look like you want to be in a position where people are just have tons of gratitude for you being a physician, and you're up on a pedestal and everyone is kneeling down thanking you. All right.
Yeah.
Again, just a general style thing. Their level of medical care is elevated because they are able to feel comfortable in their medical interactions. So again, reflections. Why is this important to you? How does this help you confirm that you want to be a physician? All right, so you go to Mali, Africa. You're in a hospital operating room, and you stunned to see many gathered in lines waiting to be seen the next day, all hoping to regain or improve their vision. Again, a couple of these things were already mentioned in the activity description, so potentially not needed here. Moments of sorrow. Watch the ophthalmologist tactfully, gently explain to parents how surgery would not bring back the sight of their children. I did whatever I could with limited knowledge through hand signals to the operating room. All right. It's interesting that you're basically describing what other people are doing here about the doctors are performing these miracles. Obviously, there's moments of sorrow. It's very common, again, for students to write, sometimes literally, like, I know every patient can't be saved, and I still want to do this, which I think is a part of what you're doing here. But this focus is all on the ophthalmologist when it should be focused on you and who you are and your impact in this situation. Patients were excited about their prospects. Great. Also nervous, of course. Assisting in the operating room with people was humbling. I plan to go back to Mali next year, and as often as I can, where my training might benefit those with little access to today's medical advancements. Okay, again, why do you want to be a doctor? That's the ultimate question that I think you should be answering with this personal statement. And to me, this is between this baseball coach one, it's just another activity description. Ophthalmology technician, another activity description. Molly, these are just extended activity descriptions and not a personal statement to help me understand why medicine. These and other experiences have set my feet firmly on the path of medicine. Wrestling taught me to push my limits. Again, that sales pitch aspect. Better leader, better listener, sales pitch aspect. Care for each patient individually, sales pitch. Showed me the needs in communities around the world. Ready to face challenges. I know I will see success and failures. Again, there's that. I know we don't always succeed. I may face loneliness at times. So there's that loneliness coming back from your wrestling stuff. Moving forward with 100% effort is who I am. Again, just super cliche, kind of, I'm dedicated and motivated to this. Medical school is the next step on my path of a career in medicine. Definitely, if you want to be a doctor, that's kind of an obvious statement. So I read this and I go, okay, very common mistakes that students make just in terms of a general personal statement. But the biggest thing, and I called it out at the beginning, pondering what you might regret, opportunities lost, and having those similar feelings applying to medical school. If I were to guess, you probably lost a lot of people with that statement. I also don't know, and again, this is just a style for me of how I like teaching students to show their journey in their personal statement, is the seed. Why were you drawn to healthcare? I don't know that. I just know that you started talking about being in a ophthalmology clinic.
Yeah, and this is, so it started, I was younger, and this is my first experience ever with medicine that I remember. I got pushed on a swing. My sister did an underdoggy. I did a backflip, landed on my head and arm, and I broke my arm. And we were at a party. A doctor came out. He wrapped my arm in a cast. It was a magazine cover. He wrapped it in duct tape, gave me some medicine. I don't even know what it was, and then sent me home, gave my mom instructions. And that was really my first interaction. And several others where, family members are, struggling with different things. And I just felt, and I tried to not be different, but I didn't feel like I had really that good. Oh, I was sitting in the hospital and this patient touched my hand and it
this
really
aha
came
moment.
Right. I felt
like it's a big misconception that students have that.
Right. And I felt like instead what happened for me was, I had those little experiences, but then I realized it started off just as I want to be a doctor, but then through all these experiences, and that's kind of what I tried to do in my personal statement, and I didn't do it well, was, hey, I had all these experiences and they just confirmed that that's what I wanted to do. I was just a freshman at BYU. Oh, I want to be a doctor, until I really started to go down the path and do things was when it really started to make sense. And that's what set my feet firmly on that path.
Yeah. All right. Common mistake. Let's look at your school list. So you are California resident, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we have some pretty heavy hitters on here. Go for it. Good for you. We got some California schools. We have UNLV. What was the goal of UNLV on there?
Mostly just, it's pretty close. Okay. I mean, it's West Coast.
Yep.
So.
Okay. I don't know what their out-of-state acceptance rates are.
Pretty low.
Did you put Reno in there as well, or no?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. Also low. So it was mostly location for me.
Okay. Yeah. And again, as long as you know that, I'm perfectly fine with it. I think just too many students don't understand the in-state, out-of-state, and all that, the bias stuff there. So again, Ohio State public school, Arizona, Phoenix, and Tucson are pretty low. One is 25%, one is 10% out of state. All the UC schools obviously make sense. There's Nevada, Reno, The Rock, Wake, and Yale. Okay. So school list isn't terrible. Obviously, being a California resident, I mean, everyone wants to be in California, and there are lots of pre-meds in California who want to stay in California. And your stats, I think, would have allowed you to potentially have some great opportunities to stay in California. I think the potential question marks with your activities stopping in December of 2022 and no real clear picture of what you're trying to continue to do, healthcare wise, clinical experience wise, shadowing wise, and the lack of reflections and understanding who you are in your activity section. And then the personal statement, I think, is probably your biggest downfall.
Well, thank you so much for all of that. And I really didn't consider the December thing being, kind of hurting me that much.
Yeah. And it may not, right? This is I'm just hypothesizing here, right? I obviously am not the oracle from the Matrix, the know-it-all. It's just an assumption. It's years and years and years of talking to students and AdCom members, and so it's one potential thing at some of the schools that they look and go, "What are you doing? I don't see what's going on here."
Absolutely. Well, can I ask a few questions?
Sure.
So, considering the December thing and my clinical experience really being in one place, and I was a lot of time there, but one place, I've got 60 days basically, and they anticipated. I work, full-time job, and most of my stuff is kind of with the community and underserved populations with, food stamps and things like that. So what would be I obviously need to get some rewritten activities and personal statements. That's going to be a lot of time. Do I go get a different clinic job? Do I go get different community service with underserved communities? What's your if I had to do two things right now, what would you tell me to do?
Yeah, I think the answer almost always is go get some clinical experience and go get some shadowing. Those are the two easiest ones. Now, clinical experience and shadowing could be once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, you're volunteering with hospice. You're back in the emergency room doing some volunteering, helping with patients. It doesn't have to be you have to quit your job and go get a full-time job. So you have a lot of flexibility there to keep doing what pays the bills for you and your family, and also continues from an actions standpoint to show that, yeah, I do like being around patients, and that is what drives me, and I do want to continue doing that as a physician. I think that's the question that you're answering with those continued experiences. And from a community service standpoint, again, it sounds like your job is doing well, interacting with that community. I don't think the fact that it's paid may take away a little bit, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. You're out there helping the underserved access the resources that they don't know how to access. And I think there's some good data out there that shows specifically the people who need the resources don't access the resources because they don't know how. So what you're doing, I think, is great. It's a clinical experience shadowing thing that, because those ended, is that a checkbox for you? And you're just going, okay, hey, I got a 3.9, I have 5.16. I'm good.
Another random question just popped into my head. My CARS score is a 125, and I've watched your thing before. So does that put me out on any schools?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Anything else?
Well, I was really hoping that I would instead be on mission accepted, but that didn't happen.
We'll get you there next.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gray. This has been enlightening, and I hope I can improve the way that I convey my narrative and story to the AdComs in the future.